you should get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that's whenever you see the most growth. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. We've got kind of a weird setup today. I know I am driving back to Lexington right now. It's like a 4.5 hour drive. Feeling very introspective. Thought I would just pull out the camera, kind of reflect on PA school up until this point. So if you want to listen to my thoughts on my long car drive, just stay tuned. After every rotation, we report back to campus for 2 days and we listen to a handful of lectures. We usually have an exam that we take if it's a core rotation. And this, we call them EOC. These EOC days, we are doing part of our summative graduate exam, so it's a different exam. From the PANTS, this exam is actually specific to our graduate school, so we actually have to pass that test as well to graduate PA school. So that's what I'm driving back for. Normally, when we were in Lexington, my drive was about 7.5 minutes to get to campus. And like I said, today, the drive is closer to 4.5 hours. So what better way to kill some time than to just talk to myself on the camera and see how it turns out, right? So that's what I'm doing today. PA school has really gone by so fast. It's hard to believe that 2 years ago today, I was sitting in our cadaver lab learning the basics of the human body, really. I mean, holding a human heart for the first time, holding a set of lungs, feeling different muscles and their attachments on a cadaver. That was 2 years ago. It feels like it was just yesterday. The 1.5 years of didactic are honestly just a whirlwind. You feel like it's never going to end, and then all of a sudden you're at the end of your didactic and you're staring clinicals down and you're freaking out. You're not really sure what the next year is going to hold, and you blink and here it is, the end of April, and I started my clinicals in July. So I seriously can't believe that I finished 10 rotations now, and I only have 2 left. It's crazy. It's pretty surreal. It's kind of scary that in 2 months I'll be taking the PANTS, and then a few months after that working on my own, making the big decisions, no longer having my preceptor to back me up on things, or when I don't know, just kind of punting to them, you know. I'm going to be the one that's in charge of those decisions, those difficult diagnoses that sometimes I don't know how to make, or I usually let my preceptor make that decision. So let's take a deeper dive into my didactic year. So at UK, didactic is about 1.5 years long. What I remember from each semester, so my first semester, I remember anatomy being pretty difficult just because there's a lot of information, a lot of material. You are learning pretty much everything that you need to know for the rest of PA school from the perspective of the human body. I don't know if that even makes sense, but you're really learning anatomy firsthand for the first time on a real human being, and that really is your foundation going forward. You learn so much in that class. I mean, I don't remember everything I learned. I try to remember the important stuff, but as far as the intricacies of where cranial nerves, what foramens they go through and exit, like I could not tell you that right now, but I can still tell you the function of the different cranial nerves and what they are. So, I mean, that's what I mean by the important stuff. But first semester of PA school, it was difficult. Just getting into that new routine, that new schedule of being in a different state, being around classmates that you barely even know yet, having to study more than you did in undergrad. It was hard, but it was manageable. It took me about a month or so to get a good grasp on how I was going to perform in PA school and what my new life was going to look like as far as when I could study, when I could have free time. Fast forward to my first summer in PA school. Honestly, one of the hardest semesters for me, just because we were given pathophysiology in about 8 weeks. So super condensed, very difficult material to grasp. in a very short amount of time. We would have an exam every other week, a big exam every other week in that class, and that was really, really hard. I didn't love patho. I loved anatomy way more than I did pathophysiology. I don't care for, the things at the cellular level. I can study them, I can learn them, but I forget them so fast because it's not something that is intuitive, and it's definitely not intuitive to me. So that's why I didn't really like patho very much. I did fine in the class, but those 8 weeks were pretty difficult. The fall semester, that's when we started learning how to actually manage patients. That's when I started to feel like a physician assistant student. At UK, they call it our clinical lecture series. We have that course in the fall and in the following spring. So that's when we start learning about diseases, how a disease presents in a patient, what the signs and symptoms are of the disease, and then we start learning how to treat the disease. So clinical lecture series was really the first formal introduction to becoming a PA. That fall was also whenever we started pharmacology and started to learn about drugs and the endless amount of medications there are, and the side effects of medications, and black box warnings, and everything that comes with pharmacology. It can be an overwhelming course, but I was really, really lucky in that I had an awesome teacher at UK who was actually from the pharmacy department, or the School of Pharmacy, and his style of teaching was honestly second to none. He had a very specific teaching style to where he would call out students in the middle of class. We would feel stupid half the time because we wouldn't know the answer, or someone would be sleeping. But when he did that, it really helped solidify that knowledge in your mind. Whenever you're asked a question and you get it wrong, you're probably not going to miss that question again if you're asked it. So that's how he taught, and it was really effective. And I think that's really given me a strong background in pharmacology. So I appreciate that. Now we are in the next semester, which would be the spring of 2018. So I'm now a year into PA school, and we still have pharmacology because there's so much of it, and we still have clinical lecture series because there are thousands of diseases to learn. And honestly, PA school could be so much longer if they allowed it to be. There's not enough time to learn everything in PA school. You have to do a lot of learning on the job, on your rotations. You'll figure that out as you go through PA school. So really, spring semester is a continuation of the fall. There's just more to learn. Now we're in the summer of 2018, so I've been in PA school for a year and a half at this point, finishing up didactic. I remember us having a nutrition course where we learned how to prepare different foods, healthy foods that is. Learned a lot about the Mediterranean diet and its positive effects it can have on patients with any number of diseases. There's a geriatrics course in there then that summer too that I honestly don't remember a ton from. Sorry. But we learned about it. So now we're at July, the start of clinical rotations. I'm scared to death. Probably pretty awkward talking to patients. Hopefully that's gotten better now at this point. It's been long enough. But I started in psychology, which is honestly a softball rotation. It was a nice rotation to begin in. The material you have to study for your rotation exam is pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Psych isn't bad for a PA student. And then I jumped into family medicine and internal medicine and geriatrics, surgery, and emergency medicine. That rounded out the end of 2018. January went back to internal medicine, February back in family medicine, March was peds. I just finished ortho for April. May will be most likely ortho again because I can't get my rotation confirmed for family medicine, and then I'll finish out with women's health, unfortunately. So that's where I am to date. If you asked me, what do you remember most about PA school? Honestly, I spent so much time worrying about tests and quizzes and grades, and it was a lot of wasted time and energy doing so because I don't honestly remember any one exam, like stressing out for any one exam. They all have just kind of blurred together at this point. What I do remember most is just hanging out with my new friends on the weekends and in class and after class. PA school is so awesome, not only because you are learning medicine and you're becoming a healthcare provider, but because of the relationships that you're going to build and the people that are going to become your lifelong friends in PA school. It's crazy to think that our time together is almost up. I mean, my group of friends and I, we've already decided that like quarterly we're going to have some kind of trip that we plan, whether that be just something small or even big. But we're absolutely getting together because at this point we can't really fathom going more than 6 months without seeing each other, because in didactic you see each other every day. You almost get sick of one another. So going on to rotations, it was kind of a breath of fresh air because you don't have to see those people every single day. I know it sounds bad, but honestly, you kind of have to miss people sometimes to really appreciate them. You know what I'm saying? So it was nice going from seeing people every day to seeing them like once a week. But now that it's like once a month, it's kind of sad. I don't know where I'm going with this. Now that we have moved back to Illinois, where we're from, our hometown, it is a very weird feeling driving back to Lexington and just knowing that our apartment's no longer there. It already doesn't feel like home anymore, and it's just a weird feeling. We were very anxious to move back to Illinois, to our hometown, but in all honesty, a few days had gone by and I talked to Chelsea and I was like, does this feel as weird as you thought it would? And she was like, no, it doesn't feel that weird. I thought it would be really difficult, but it hasn't been. In my opinion, it's felt pretty normal. And now that we've been back home for a month, it feels like it's that feeling of knowing that where you are is exactly where you need to be. I really can't explain it any other way. I don't know. It just feels right. And I think this is exactly what God planned for us. I think He has, been in control the entire time. We always think that we have these great ideas and these plans and we want life to go a certain way, but at the end of the day, it's gonna go the way He wants it to go. And that way is perfect, honestly. So while it was really difficult to move away from Lexington and our friends and all the great things that make Lexington so awesome, the restaurants, the breweries, the bourbon, the horses, the landscape, Southern Illinois can't really compare in that regard. We have a lot of cornfields. It's really flat. There's really nothing else in Southern Illinois besides St. Louis, which is about an hour away from where I live now. What's great is that we can always go back and visit. We always have friends there. We'll always have our favorite spots that we can go back to eat. And that's what I love. 4 hours, 4.5 hours, it really isn't that bad. You can make that drive anytime. That's not bad. If I can give someone a solid piece of advice about choosing the right PA school, you have to go with your gut feeling. That's what I did with Kentucky, and I don't regret it. It felt right from the very beginning. From the time I submitted my CASPA application and applied to Kentucky, I had an almost sure feeling that I was going to get accepted, and this is the school that I was going to attend. I don't know why, I don't know how. It just felt right from the beginning. So when I got that letter stating that I was accepted, I knew that that's where I was going. So when you go to apply to schools and you're not sure which one is the right fit for you, your gut feeling is right almost always. Go with your gut. You can be nervous, you can be scared to move away from what you know and have to develop all new relationships and learn a new city and everything that comes with that. But that's going to be where you experience the most growth. You should be willing to move out of your comfort zone, because when you do so, you become a better person, you become a stronger person. There's just so much to getting away from everything that makes you comfortable. I love the saying that talks about how you should get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that's whenever you see the most growth. Really, being uncomfortable is half of PA school. You honestly are faking it until you make it. You're showing that you're confident on the outside, but deep down, you're freaking out. You're freaking out when you talk to patients and you don't know what's going on with them. You may not know their diagnosis, but you get through it, you learn from it. Of course, as you progress through PA school, you become more comfortable, but there's still that feeling of discomfort. And I think in life you should always have that feeling of discomfort, because the second you feel totally comfortable in what you do, I don't think you're actually growing anymore. I think you're just staying still. You've plateaued. So I always want to have a little bit of discomfort. The second that you feel like you know everything is when you start to make mistakes. Because in medicine, there's so much to know. How can one possibly feel like they know everything? It's not possible. So I'm gonna wrap this video up right here. If you're still watching, I don't know how many minutes we are into this thing, 15, 20 minutes. I appreciate it. Thanks for being introspective with me. I hope that some of my thoughts you can take with you going forward, whether you are a PA student now or a future PA student. It really is a fun time in life. You learn a lot about yourself, and of course you learn a lot about how to become a great PA. So thank you all for watching. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe to my channel. I would greatly appreciate it, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.